Hello, I'm Mark Carrolls for the summer 2022 internship class. I'm going to talk today about nCino and the software engineering internship that took place over this summer and what I got out of it and why I chose nCino. So, to start, I had a few options when I first applied for this program. I had applied to a data management internship out of um, North Carolina A&T. I was accepted with that one. I had applied to a virtual reality through the school with Dr. Pence and Ibrahimi and Morago. I didn't find out about that one because before that, I decided to go ahead and take this internship with nCino. Now, the interview process was great. It was a great technical interview. Actually, a lot of what I learned from CSC 331, Java programming, object oriented programming, applied to my interview process with the company. I interviewed with my current managers, John Stamitz and Ed, who's also I see a lot within the company, but he doesn't work directly for the team. And I was hired onto the commercial pricing and profitability team, which is a new team that they just developed about a year and a half ago within the company for mortgage rates, pricing, and showing a bank how profitable it could be. So it's a modal built within Salesforce. So after I was hired, they had this onboarding process, and the onboarding process was supposed to take about 6 to 8 weeks on average to complete. It went through getting your laptop set up. After you got your laptop set up, it went through the different portions of trailheads within Salesforce, the Salesforce platform itself, the Jira application used when conducting tickets, what this is Atlassian program, how to get signed up for Workforce, which is how you keep track of your time, and pretty much anything else new hires needed to go through and get. And then it had an onboarding project right at the end where you had to create something within Salesforce itself. Unfortunately, that project didn't really prep you for the work you're going to do. And let me set this straight. It was a software engineering specific product. So it was supposed to prep you on what you needed to do once you got to your team, but it was outdated and it didn't really give you the tools needed once you got to your team to help perform at the optimal level, which I think was its intention. More so, it just kind of gave you an introduction into Salesforce, and a lot of the tools that you needed there didn't really apply once you got to your team. But anyway, that's some of the feedback I've had for the company to this point. But I was able to finish the project in 2 weeks because I worked my butt off to try to get it done so I can get to my team and actually learn something and get something out of this internship. So when I got to my team, I started learning the in and outs of a typical day as a software engineer. I was assigned a mentor, Michael Katz, who also went to UNCW. And he helped prep me for getting set up with the meetings, what the agile process was, what to program in, because we were given the option of programming in IntelliJ, which I was familiar with, or VS Code, which everybody used there, and a lot of the instructions utilized VS Code. So I decided to go ahead and piggyback on that and use VS Code in order to program in, which I figured would give me more insight from the assistance I need, especially from my mentor. So once that was set up, I got set up with a bunch of meetings. I learned the ins and outs of the agile process. I went to stand up. I met the Scrum Master, who I became close with, who also went to UNCW as a finance major. Our project manager, who went to UNC Chapel Hill, but had been working for the company for a few years, and pretty much everybody on my team, outside of our senior engineer, had gone to UNCW. So it was a close knit community there. We had three different teams within the commercial pricing and profitability. We had our Duel team, which was the team I was on, the Dual team, which handled most of the profitability side. I handled the pricing side. My team handled the pricing side. And then we had the Tesla team, which was more architecture based. and overall functionality with how to implement it into the overall sustainability usability of the Salesforce platform. So I interacted a lot with my team, the Duels and the Duals, pricing and profitability. We often collaborated on different stand-ups, and we had a huge package move, which I'll touch base with here in a minute, that took up a lot of the time. So the biggest obstacle to overcome was honestly learning the test writing that was required from these tickets. So to dive into that a little more was we pulled the ticket. So we used Jira for our ticket system, and I went through a lot of refinements, a lot of retros. I did sprint planning. I went through stand-ups. We did, stand downs on some days. And as being a part-time employee, I only worked about 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, because that was all I was allowed to. So I did miss a lot of stand downs at the end of the day. But I did learn a lot about the agile process. But as I was working tickets, when you worked inside the data model, you had and wrote any sort of Apex coding, which is a lot like JavaScript. Sorry, Java, not JavaScript. You did have to write these jest tests for these Apex tests for a lot of these programs that Salesforce used in order to properly incorporate it into the system itself. A lot of the testing I'm still not 100% sure on. I got some assistance from a lot of people on the team on how to write the test, and it was a lot of copy and paste. But I didn't really see the functionality of the testing, and I'm still hoping going forward here that I can learn a lot from the functionality from the testing. But whenever I did have an issue, I would bring in somebody from the team, and they were more than willing to sit down and help and work it out with me in order to get me on the right page and kind of explain little by little as much as they could. But it's not as deep as saying taking a class on how that all functions and works. So overcoming it is still a work in progress, but the test writing is one of the things that kind of tripped me up most going through this process, and it's stuff that I'm still kind of ironing out. That and some of the language they use within the company as well it took a little bit to get used to, especially a lot of the financing and banking side. I'm still getting used to some of that, figuring out what a modal is. Just certain things that I hadn't really touched based on before, based on the classes I had taken. But the company and the people and everybody was more than willing to help me out, and no question was dumb. They helped me in every aspect that I could, that I needed in order to do my job and do it well. So that was a great part of working for nCino. I would say my object-oriented programming applied the most to this internship, my CSC 331 class, because a lot of what we wrote had object like global implementation throughout a lot of cross-packaging services. And we had to be able to use data from one location and launch it or implement it into another, as well as work across many different languages. The few I worked with were Apex, JavaScript, JSON, HTML, and XML. And I worked so that they would talk to each other, and a lot of what I learned within object-oriented programming, especially how protected public and private classes work, how they implement across a package, and how they work within, how to call them, everything kind of going into a lot of the code was already written, so how to implement it was a big deal, and I feel like I learned the most through my 331 class. If I had to choose another class, I would probably say my software security class, because it taught me detailed programming and what to look out for and how to make sure I didn't make the little mistakes when I was programming, which really helped because I caught a lot of stuff that was in there and written incorrectly and poorly, and I kind of brought it up and got a kudos every now and then when I would see stuff that was it was functioning fine, but it wasn't properly written, and it could be easily bypassed, or errors could easily occur, or security vulnerabilities could easily exist. So it really helped me kind of point that out, and the security team really liked me. The internship itself, I would say if it turns into a full-time job, was a great opportunity to get hands-on experience within Salesforce. But Salesforce itself isn't a great platform to program in. A lot of programmers there will kind of tell you to. It's not very intuitive. It's very picky. Builds don't happen very quickly. It can't determine differences in code if you use languages it's not familiar with, if that makes any sense. And to implement things in Apex sometimes can be very difficult, as well as the cross package services or the global variables are very hard to allow access without allowing vulnerability within the code itself. And a lot of stuff is hard coded, which is can be a very vulnerable issue when it comes to especially banking information and financial information. It did give me a lot of information on how Scrum works, how the Agile process works, what to expect. A lot of meetings, a little bit of programming, which is kind of what I expected, but it definitely showed me that it's a lot of collaborative work among a lot of different people that make an entire software engineering or an entire team function, and it's not just a bunch of programmers collaborating, doing group programming over one issue. It's a lot of small tickets in code that already exists, creating new fields and field sets, creating new creating new modals and buttons and everything else within the program itself in order to make it function properly. And it's a lot of working together to make sure that it happens in an efficient and effective manner. So I would say the one thing, or I took multiple things, but the big thing I took from this internship was the collaborative analysis among each software engineer, scrum master, product manager, everybody that kind of worked together, even across the other, like the financial services and the DevOps and our architecture team, and everybody was an influential and instrumental piece to the puzzle in order to get this software up and running, and that's really what I took from this. And I'm hoping to apply it further. I am planning to stick with the company into the fall. At the very least, I wanted to get more into the start of the release process, that sprint run up, and the sprint run launch, and kind of see how it changes as the weeks go. We did do this package I had mentioned before, so we moved out of what was called LLCBI, which is a big package that incorporated a lot of different teams, into our own CPP package. And this package move was more than just copy and pasting code. We had to make sure the cross-package services were running properly. We had to make sure that it incorporated with Salesforce properly. There was a lot that went into it, and even it was supposed to take a week, and we're on week 4, and we're still kind of working through a lot of the bugs. But we're starting to get to our own package, which allows us to run our orgs, our builds, a lot quicker, and allows us to get a lot more work done without having to wait for the system to catch up. So I'm hoping this internship going into the fall, after this package move is done, is more focused on running tickets, working with the team. I'm hoping to understand test writing a little bit better, and I'm hoping that I get more experience out of it, and then we'll see for the spring whether I stay on as an intern with nCino or I look to grab another opportunity before I graduate in the spring of next year. A few little anecdotes that came out of the company. I've noticed that you can not understand the platform but still have a great time at your job if you're working with a team of people and a company who actually cares about their people. And I've noticed with nCino that is the case. They care about their employees. They want to build a company, a long-term future that want to make you stay there, that wants to make you enjoy your job, and they feel like they get the best out of that. And because they have happy employees, everybody gets along and works great together as a team. The hours are great, the people are great, the company is great, the platform could use some work, but it's not something that's going to be changing anytime soon. So overall, I would say that learning that you can love the people you work with without loving the job you do, and sometimes that's even better than loving the type of program you're doing, but hating your boss and hating the people you work with and hating the company you work with. So there's a lot to take in and a lot to balance. A lot that I kind of pulled out of this internship and what I'm hoping translates into a long-term career and future within either, if not this company, then another company that I love to work with. I would love to find everything, but I know that might not be the case going forward. But I'm hoping that this internship has painted a clearer picture of what I want to do after graduation, what I want to pursue, and how I want to pursue it. And I'm glad that I did this summer, and I'm glad that I'm moving forward with nCino right now as a additional internship, even if it's not for credit. It's just the experience within the company and understanding and building my repertoire of what I know, especially my repertoire within Salesforce. So that was my 2022 internship experience over the summer of 2022, and I look forward to learning more this semester, upcoming semesters, about the app building and data management and everything, all the classes I'm taking now, and hopefully that applies to understanding a broader picture of software engineering in the future. If you have any questions, please let me know, and thanks for listening.